faster than mine, Miss Teresa. I've got 10 seconds.
Oh, yeah, pretty close.
Okay. We'll go with it.
Seconds.
We're good.
Okay.
All righty. Good evening, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order. And if you'll please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. And at this time, we'll move to 1.03, approval of the agenda for this evening.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been properly motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. Next up, 1.04, input from the public. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes with this, but there's nobody here other than staff, and you've heard it a number of times, so I'm not going to read it. Is there any comments from the public? Any input at all? Perfect. Moving right on then. 2.01 is review or receipt, review, and possible approval of proposed new Elko Bus Route. And this is for possible action. Mr. Seth, come on down.
Yep, this one's already on. All right, so basically what we have is, we haven't done this in a long time because we haven't added a new area of service. So what we are proposing is just it's an addition to an existing route, but it's in an area where we've never stopped before. So that's why we're bringing it here for approval. So the area is up in the neighborhood behind Mountain View School. Currently, those students are picked up all at Mountain View School to be transported to Flagview. So part of the reasoning behind this is to help alleviate the traffic at Mountain View from parents bringing their kids down to the school to be picked up by the bus. And basically running through it and with timing, it basically will take us the same amount of time to drive up the 5 blocks away and drive down the road and pick up at 5 different locations and pick these kids up, as it will for us to sit there in the traffic jam at Mountain View and wait and turn around. So just kind of trying to add some ease and more service to the students in that area so they don't have to come all the way down to there, and we don't have this large group stop there, just trying to split that traffic up. So the stops, basically the 5 on there, it's just intersections. So that's not, they're going to be in that general vicinity. We may move them up and down the street a little bit. So just so we know that, we just put out the intersection names to say. So basically we'll be traveling up through there, down in field, crossed over by Adobe, and then continuing the existing part of the route, which is behind the pack, and then down that way, and then coming back. So we won't be removing any service from any students. We're just hoping to ease some of that traffic flow and having those kids walking down through the neighborhood, and hoping that just, there's a lot of, just the traffic there at Mount View makes it a little scary sometimes with kids walking in and around and buses. And if we can remove one 40-foot large vehicle out of there, I think it'd be beneficial for everyone. And then I did check with the city of Elko already and gave them the proposed plans. All the streets are winter maintained, snow removal, all that. They didn't have any issues with our planned route. So
Great.
That's it.
Sounds like it's ready to go. I move to approve. Second.
All righty. Any discussion?
I just have a question about getting it out. Do we have what's our policy and our procedure in getting this out to parents? I know you have it approved, but are we working with other public agencies to inform like the neighborhoods we're going to go through now? I know that stopping for buses can be cumbersome for some folks. And so,
Yeah, no, we typically don't.
I know it's been a while since we've, just like you said, we've
Yeah.
had some. Is there anything that we can do to try and, I don't.
The buses drive through there anyway. They just don't stop. We go
Okay.
from Mountain View.
So
we
people
cut
have
through
seen
that
buses in that
neighborhood.
area then?
Yeah.
Okay.
We
Okay,
just
so now
don't
there'll just be
stop.
stops.
We just, basically, we're going, I don't know, half or a mile further down. We're gonna go down Fifth Street and then turn in instead of going up by Mountain View and
Okay.
cutting up. Yeah.
Okay.
So a few blocks worth of neighborhood that we don't normally drive the big bus through.
Yeah.
It will be going through, but our special needs transportation goes
Goes
through
that way
there.
anyways.
and,
Okay.
Yeah, we
All right,
have
well, we've already
buses in
seen,
that area. It's just, half of that route, we use that road every day.
Every day anyways. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
All right. Just checking, making sure. So appreciate it.
And I think as part of your summer training or whatever with the drivers,
mhm.
they'll be going through pretty much every morning or after, don't they go through and practice their route and
Yeah,
go to those
the
stops
new
and pick
routes,
up?
yeah, all the new ones, all the changes, yeah, those drivers have gone through.
We'll be doing it through the summer leading up into
Yeah.
the school year where people will be able to see, hey, we're gonna have buses coming through here.
Cool.
Yeah, and so hopefully there's no objection, but there's always going to be some people that are unhappy no matter what we do, so.
No, for sure. Yeah. But the comment was less about like whether people are happy about it because we need to pick up kids, right?
Yeah,
It was just more about the safety. And
yeah,
if we could work with some more public works organizations to put out,
yeah,
kind of
just,
the rules of the road type thing, maybe as we get to school,
yeah,
stop for buses when it's flashing, those types of things. So people
Yeah.
aren't, it's a
exactly,
suggestion. I
yeah.
don't know. So,
That's something we can definitely consider to do.
cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from the board? There's a motion on the table. All in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. Thank you very much. So 2.02 is receipt, review, and possible permission to go out to bid for the Flag View Auxiliary Gym Roof Project. This is for possible action. Mr. Stolke.
Hello. So little back information, the building that we kind of want to put a new roof on was built in 1992. We have water entering the building. Over the years, we've done a couple different roof repairs that have worked, but just it's become the end of its life cycle. So the project will consist of removing 2 HVAC units and then kind of enclosing those penetrations, because I think that's where we're getting a lot of water coming through. Is we have 5 on there right now. And then the new system will be kind of like they call it a hugger roof. So it's going to be like a roof on top of a roof. And then we'll be, so we can do that in the wintertime. We won't have to expose anything to elements or anything like that. And we will be replacing gutters and downspouts.
Thank you. Comments or questions from the board?
Just a question, Mr. President. Where will you move the HVAC units? You said you're taking some off. Have you got a new home for those?
They're not working.
Oh, they're non-functional,
Yeah,
so they're okay.
non-functional. So
Okay,
like
great.
the 3 we're leaving, I think 2 are working and 1 we're waiting on parts. So
So we've already mitigated then the HVAC flow of air.
yeah, I mean, it's working good with the 2. We just want to get some parts for the 3rd one just to have redundancy.
Great, thank you. Any additional questions? What's the timeline on this, Matt?
I'm not really sure. I mean, we'll put it out to bid and we'll see. I don't know if too many contractors, not a lot of contractors do metal roofing here. So I'm kind of reaching out to some contractors in Reno and Salt Lake and see if they'll come here and do this project. So I think it'll have to be a bigger contractor to do this.
Okay. And in the discussion that I had with CJ, this is on our CIP, originally budgeted around 400,000. So we lowered that just a little bit for what we think might be on the bid.
Yeah, Garland Engineering is the company we use for a lot of our roofing projects, and they always try to shoot high.
Okay.
So they're 295 to 350,000. That was their kind of range, but so.
Great. If there's nothing further, what is the desire of the board?
Move to give permission to go out to bid for the Flagview Auxiliary Gym roof repair,
Second.
or roof
Been-
project, sorry.
All right. It's been
I'll approve it.
motioned and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. Thank you very much, Matt. 2.03 is receipt, review, and possible approval of proposed changes to policy IDD, curriculum design, instruction of students with disabilities for possible action. We've had this a couple of times going back. Tonight, we're hopefully finalizing it. We appreciate your efforts and your team's efforts there, Dr. Higbee, and getting the responses and the requests from the board as well as from others. So thank you.
This was too important for us to rush through it, and so I appreciate Brooke and her input and our team putting this together the right way.
Any comments or questions from the board?
I was just gonna say, I really appreciate that we went back and revised this. I think that the language in it is a lot better now and provides a lot of clarity for everybody, and it looks great to me. So thank you for working on that more.
You betcha.
What is the pleasure of the board?
I move to approve, here, let me get back to my page. I move to approve the changes to policy IDD, curriculum design, instruction of students with disabilities.
Second.
All right, properly moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Higbee. 2.04 is receipt, review, and discussion of proposed changes to policy BCA. This is board organizational meeting. This is a non-action item. And because I proposed both of these, I'm also going to open up 2.05, receipt, review, and discussion of proposed changes to policy BCB, board officers. Both of these are non-action items. This is the first time that it's come before the board in this format. And this was something that I had mentioned a while back in regards to potentially having 2-year terms for specifically board chair and board clerk, but also potentially moving into the other regular appointments that we make, including the Debt Management Commission and the NASB representatives. The purpose behind this was basically that about the time you're finally in your groove, ready to go, you've got things dialed in, it's about time for us to revamp and change over. So that was the intent behind it. I did visit with Mr. Durham, who isn't able to make it today. His comment back was obviously in doing that, that reduces the amount of options or ability for multiple people to be able to serve in the 4-year terms that they're elected to. So it's quite probable that folks would not have the opportunity to serve as chair or clerk or president or clerk if this passes, and there are multiple people that would like those positions. So wanted to make sure that I stated that first. I'm just throwing it out there, letting the board decide what they would like to do, and we can massage it any way we need to. Also, for clarification, I have not gotten final sign off on legal, but I don't believe there were any concerns on that.
I got sign off on legal. He's fine with it, then
Perfect.
with the way the wording is.
Okay.
Provided the board is.
Any discussion, any proposed changes?
Mr. Chair, I don't see any reason why we can't just reorganize the board every year. We can do it fairly quickly, and if somebody wants the opportunity to serve in a different capacity, I think it's great for them to have that opportunity. I know at the beginning of this year, a lot of people expressed a desire to try different things. And so I think it takes opportunities away from the board by doing it only every 2 years. So I would not be in support of any of the changes on either policy.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I can't remember if my mic's on or not. I feel like Teresa does. I don't think it takes very much time to reorganize every year. There aren't term limits set, so there's nothing preventing someone from serving as board president for 4 years or 6 years or whatever it is. I think that, if we like the way that they lead and their ideas and different things like that, that we keep them on, keep them in that position if things are going smoothly and the board works well and the dynamic all works well. But I like having the option of switching things up every year if there's a need. And I also like having the option of switching things up just to give people more opportunity to serve in different capacities. So I agree. I think it should be something that we redo every year.
Okay.
I agree with them, so
Okay.
I don't need to repeat. Ditto.
Okay, sounds good. Adriana, Josh?
I'm with you, Matt. I feel like it needs more than 1 year, that one person can do a better job if it has more time and
Okay.
learns the process, and the second year will be better.
Okay.
Well, for all commenting, I want
Here's
Don't-
my
to, I
thought.
don't want to get the trend.
We
I want to bump
have,
the trend here.
we have
so.
3 that have said they're not,
Yeah.
they're not in favor of it. And if we have a 4th,
Yes.
then I'm perfectly fine not even bringing it back. Obviously, we don't have action on this evening, but
No, so
for the board or president of the chair would be to not put it on the agenda.
I would say that I'm in agreement with you. Everything you had talked about was, or even just getting used to the person who's in charge of that position, if you will. And so I know that I was one, and you took credit for it too, but I was one that had brought up that maybe they need to be longer positions otherwise, because as we know, in this position, time like flies through. And so before you know it, everyone's trying to get something done, and then it's time to move on. So anyways, but yeah, so for the same reasons you have already stated, I like the change to 2 years. I understand what the rest of the board is talking about. So I think we have we're gonna have to.
We'll let Jeff be the
We have,
tiebreaker.
yeah, we have a head to head.
Can I just say one more thing?
Oh, please.
I talked to someone that I trust really a lot about this, and this is what the person said. In general, I favor longer terms because it retains power for the board. Shorter terms tend to shift power to the administrators. Conversely, rotating terms tends to balance power more equally among the board members. So I personally feel like it takes a little while to get your feet on the ground and to learn everything that you need to in order to do a good job as a board president especially. But there's nothing preventing us from keeping Matt on or whoever the board president is at the time with the way the policy reads before. There's nothing preventing us from having you in there for 2 or 3 or 4 years, whoever it is, to let them learn that job. And if they're doing a great job and we like their way that they're leading the board and their stance on different things, I think that's awesome. And I think as a board, that's what we want. And so, but I still feel like having the ability every year to switch things up, if that's what's needed, is also a really important thing. And not to have someone in a position that maybe they're just not geared for another year.
That's great. I like what you said at the end there. Maybe they're not. What is the policy if somebody doesn't want to do that anymore? Like, if someone is, I haven't looked it up. I don't know. Does anyone know? Is there even a policy for it? Let's say someone doesn't want to do the position they originally signed up for. I didn't remember seeing it in any. Is it on the other one?
Teresa, you've been here longer than any of us, and you started reaching for the mic, so I'm going to give you that one. As you're doing that, I'll read through BCB, because I think that's the one that indicates what we do with the resignation.
All right, well, just the bottom of the current policy, BCA just talks about, the incumbent president will preside until a successor is elected, whereupon the successor will assume the presidency. In the event no incumbent president remains on the board or is unable to continue to serve as an officer, the board clerk will conduct the election. So that talks, about the clerk and the board chair. But if someone, say, had a health issue and said, I can't do whatever my job on the board is anymore, I think we would just come back in a board meeting and say, okay, would someone like to volunteer to finish off this term? Or I don't know that there's specific.
In policy
Policy, there you go.
BCB,
You got
yeah,
that in that one?
it says in policy BCB, it says if the board member is unable to continue to serve as an officer, a replacement will be elected immediately. The replacement officer will serve the remainder of the officer's term.
Perfect. So I guess if you consider everyone an officer of some nature, whether, Susan's the officer of the STARS committee or whatever. If we make sure that language encompasses that, then yeah, basically we'd come back as a board and find someone, elect someone else to fill that position.
Yeah.
Or appoint them as a board, however we want to look at that.
So then kind of furthering my thought was just that we have it in that the person then has the ability to back out of a 2-year, but we don't necessarily, does the board, again, we hope we never get to this spot, but does the board have the authority, as if all members deem that they're not fulfilling the duties of that and they want them removed, they have the ability to remove them from that?
I don't believe there's an impeachment ability.
I'm just asking. I just like, we're talking about
Right,
all the things,
right,
so
right.
I'm just asking the hard question.
Well,
Well,
and
not
especially-
hard, but just
yeah.
let's call it weird questions. How's that?
But especially with a 2-year term, I mean,
Yeah,
that could get even more awkward.
the idea
I think,
is
yeah,
that,
That's
you know,
messy.
that not having them do, not going 2 years, but doing 1 year is that there's not an option if, say, the board isn't happy with the job that the person is doing. So then my question would be then, now does that make the whole policy then void at that point? If we even add that to it?
I don't know that it would necessarily make it void. I would certainly recommend that we move it back through legal. There are parliamentary procedures to override the chair of the board, but that doesn't mean that the duties as outlined in BCB
Yeah.
would be able to be overrun by the president.
I guess I'm more looking towards, so it seems as though we're pretty solid on the president clerk as far as how we operate. But I guess it does fall into that if that's a concern of others. So, anyways,
So, I mean, a board member can always be censured for one thing or another.
Right?
And so if there was some kind of issue, that's always an option, and you would just refer that either to your board president unless they were the issue, or to the superintendent, and there could be procedures moving forward from there. But I do think there's a lot of protection to the board just with the 1-year terms, just in case there is, some rogue attitude of a few board members one way or another. I think that 1 year is a lot of protection, and it's pretty simple to do that once a year. And I think it adds protection. And, as Brooke stated, there's nothing stopping us in January from saying, I move to keep every, position is exactly how it is. And it's a 30-second, item on the agenda, but I do think there's protection there that we shouldn't overlook from my past experience.
I agree.
Okay. Sounds good. I will go ahead and move this forward on the next agenda there. Is there any additional comments? One minor thing that will maybe need to be addressed since we already have it open, the existing policy, and I failed to include the original, the red line, the finished. So I apologize for that, but I'll make sure that's there in the next one. But the current policy has a simple minor typo that continues the numbering from board president into the duties of the board secretary, not to be confused with the board clerk. And so those are numbered 8 through 12 rather than 1 through 5. So as we move forward, we'll keep that in mind. Since we've got it open, we might as well make that change if no other. But I'll have all 3 copies available on the next agenda. Thank you very much for the discussion. If there's nothing further, then we will move forward on to 2.06, which is receipt, review, and discussion of proposed changes to policy JGDAB, student welfare, student transportation, use of personally owned vehicle to transport students, non-action item. So this is currently available for discussion. And Mr. Anderson, do you want to take this one, or is this going back to?
Yeah, I can. Cody, I don't remember if you had any involvement with the development of this one or not, but essentially, so this one, JGDAB, right now, it states explicitly that students can never transport themselves or other students for anything related to school matters. But we do have such programs in effect now, like the teacher in training CTE program, which would require them to drive from one campus to another to enact that. And so seeing that there were certain scenarios in which we would need a student to potentially transport themselves, it made sense to have a policy in place. It doesn't blanket allow for anyone to just do it ever, or, all the time. You'd have to have a consent form and like approval for a student to be able to do that. But because there are many circumstances under which we don't want that happening, right? Like we don't want kids just driving themselves to a game in Reno that they have a basketball game that night, right? Like there's more scenarios than not. We want to keep it the way it is, but there are scenarios which we want to have an opportunity for an exception. So
So
that's essentially what it boils down to.
So will the consent form only be distributed to certain students? Because if I say, yep, my son's good to drive to Reno for his basketball game this weekend, here's the executed consent form. How do we, because I agree with you, how do we prevent that? And then even internal field trips, all of a sudden we've got 30 cars on the vehicle instead of one, or on the road instead of one bus.
Yeah. So like many other permissions to do things at campuses, you would, someone could petition for that to the site administrator. They would listen to the reason for which we're talking about doing this and decide whether or not that's a consent they want to grant or not.
Further discussion or questions from the board?
I had a question about the word activity. So is that meaning the student aides traveling to the elementary schools? Like where it says, any field trip activity. So are we counting an activity as the student aides traveling to elementary schools? Because to me, that's not really an activity.
Yeah, maybe we need a different word in there because activity is, yeah, you're right, it's a different thing.
Just add something.
Add something, yeah, or for assigned classes or
And
course-related activity or, yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Co-curricular.
Yeah, maybe some sort of wording that clarifies that this is for instructional purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at policy JGDAA, and that one deals with like parents transporting, but using personally owned vehicles, and there's a whole list of things they have to have. I didn't know if that applies to this one or if it's different. And for instance, like a valid driver's license. They haven't been convicted of a DUI, like those kind of things. So
You're getting real picky, Susan.
yeah. Well, especially if they're transporting another student with them.
Yeah.
Like, so I just didn't know on that part if that needs to go with that or not.
Yeah,
So
almost
I
like a
just-
reference to all requirements as set forth in JGDAA or
Mhm.
along those lines. Yeah.
And then the last one, let's see, what was the other? Where it says, the consent form has been received by the district. So it actually gets approved by the school site first, and then the district hangs on to the paperwork. I'm not sure what that means there.
Sometimes we refer to the district, but the school is part of it is the district. And so something could be housed at a school and still, I think it means the same thing.
Okay.
Doesn't necessarily mean in a district.
Central office.
It doesn't mean in this building. It could be somewhere else in the district.
Okay. That's all I had for that.
That's good feedback.
And maybe a fully executed consent form means that it's been approved by the school, but would you need to add that wording in there? A fully executed consent form that has been received and approved by the district?
Or perhaps have the consent form require the administrator at the school site.
Yeah, like a
And-
site administrator
right.
approve.
And if it's not signed, then it's not fully executed or fully executed. That would resolve some of my concerns on parents basically just signing fully executed consent forms to say, yep, they can do whatever they want, whenever they want, wherever they want, with whoever they want. And I think that this policy, there's a reason that we don't have kids driving themselves.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm going to give you like a parallel how this would work. And maybe you're right. We just need to have it more clearly explained. But like on athletic trips, for example, there's a process to follow if I want my son to be able to drive home with this other parent, right? Like you can't just do that, and a parent couldn't just fill out a form and then turn it in and say, we're good. Like it has to be signed by them. It has to be approved by the administrator. It has to be communicated to the coach. The coach has to do a sign out, right? Like there's a whole procedure that goes with something like that. And you have to do it every time. It's not like a one-time shot either, right? Like it's, hey, that was for that one game and that is no longer valid anymore. And so, yeah, there may just need to be perhaps some more language just to line out that it's not just as simple as signing a form and putting it in the mail, so to speak. Was that kind of what we're getting at?
Yeah.
Sounds like it. Thank you.
Yeah.
To have the process a little more clear and transparent, it's like we can know how it works, but just to make it clear for everybody how that process runs. Yep.
Great, thank you. Any final words of advice?
No, I think it's a good idea to be able to have the option. So I think if we can just clarify, that'll be great. But having the option is really helpful in some instances for sure.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good change.
And I'll say from my perspective, again, I just want to reiterate, like this isn't supposed to be like the new norm. It's like there are certain scenarios that would necessitate this. Otherwise, it is in the best interest and the safety of students to be on organized and supervised travel. So this would be, for very specific circumstances.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to 2.07, receipt review and discussion of proposed new policy, JJB, education records surveys. This is a non-action item. Mr. Anderson.
Mic back on. So this one this was unsolicited, so sorry. But in the course of our work, we come across things sometimes where we might find something that says, hey, we advise you have a policy about X. Okay, so this was something a couple NASB meetings ago. Those meetings you let me go to every month. We came back and there was within the information we received, there was I forwarded that on to Rob Salyer, our legal, and he was reading through and recommendation to have a policy about how we deal with surveys that come from the federal side of things. And so this policy essentially reflects guidance on how we would handle and how we would communicate with parents specifically about whether or not they want to take part in. And so it would make it an opt-in consent as opposed to an opt-out. We have a lot of things that are opt-out, like you have to opt out if you don't want your student's name or image or anything like that, broadcast through district mediums. And so that's something people have to opt out of if they don't want it. This would be, I want, opt in. So we can't just kind of survey your kid on something the federal government wants us to survey them without you being notified what the survey is, what the content is, and then plenty of time ahead of the date. And so this is all very much specifically about, as you read through, you can see it's when the survey is funded in whole or in part, I think it should say in part by a program, not in party, maybe, but from the U.S. Department of Ed. So, and then later down, there's notice and refusal for opt-out of student participation in other types of surveys. So it's just our way of making sure there's clear criteria for how we're going to communicate with parents and families about different types of surveys, and giving people an awareness of what their rights are to participate or not participate in such surveys.
Thank you, sir. Comments or questions? Suggested changes? All righty. Hearing none, we will move to 2.08, receipt of a central office department update. This is a non-action item. Ms. Turnahue.
Good evening. It feels like forever since I've been up here. I have 4 things I'd like to talk to you about tonight, and all 4 things are addressed under Pillar 3 of our district strategic plan, the teaching and learning excellence. The first is we are in our 2nd week of summer school for the elementary students. We had over 481 students attending summer school with 68 teachers graciously teaching summer school this summer. We try to improve the math that happens at summer school, because what happens is we start with a particular type of student that has similar struggles, but then by the time everything is said and done and vacations happen and parents deny or accept invitations, and we get kind of this mixed bag of students. So NNR PDP found a program called Math for Love. And what is great about this program, it's a game-based program in math that teaches different concepts, but it's through puzzles and games and guided discussions and inquiry. And then another great thing about it is that it takes kids at the level that they're at. So you could have a high kid, a low kid, and a medium kid all playing the same game and getting something beneficial from it. So I just want to say thank you to those teachers that are teaching summer school, and thank you to those parents that are making the sacrifice and those little kiddos for attending summer school. And our teachers up in Jackpot, they actually did their summer school back in June, and they had very good things to say about that Math for Love program. So I'm hoping, from what I hear, it's pretty good, but I'm hoping we have the same feedback from the teachers in Elko and Spring Creek. The next thing I'd like to talk about is our subclass called Strategies for Substitute Success, and I like to give you guys updates. We are currently at 76 substitutes trained. We are taking our show on the road for the first time, and we are going to hold a subclass in West Wendover, and that's next week. So hopefully we add to that total. Next, I just wanted to make you aware, we had on our textbook agenda schedule that we were going to do a science textbook adoption this year. We're still not sure what that's going to look like. If it's just going to be an elementary textbook adoption, a secondary one, if we can both do it together. But as soon as I figure that out, or we figure that out, I'll report back to you and let you know what our timeline is. And last but not least, next week we have 49 new teachers that are going to attend RISE. And that's our retention program that we have with the district, and we partner with NNR PDP. And it's just new training for our new teachers that are coming to the district. And on Monday, what they do is they go to their campuses and they meet their principal. They learn all the specifics about their campus, like how to work the copy machine, meet their co-teachers, things like that. And then the next 2 days, on Tuesday and Wednesday, that's when they get to come to the High Tech Center, and they spend that time with NNR PDP working on like best practices, learning about the NEPF, and also meeting their mentors that are going to help guide them through the year. And then on Thursday, it's our chance as a district to go introduce our principals to them, teach them all about the different departments, and introduce them to the people that work in those departments. And then we have Sarah Jelly that takes them through a whole day of tech tools that we offer from the district to them to use in their classrooms. And that is my report. If you guys have any questions, I'd happily try to answer them.
I have a question about summer school. How do you determine if it's successful or not?
Well, last year what I did is I looked at their MAP scores, and if there was an increase, I counted that as a success from their spring to their fall. With this math program that we're trying this year, we did have a pretest built into it that they took the first 2 days of school, and there will be a post. So that will be another indicator of success.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Additional comments or questions for Mrs. Turnihue?
All right.
Quick
Thank
question
you.
for you
Okay.
in regards to the science textbooks. Is the uncertainty of which way we're going based on condition of the textbooks, or the fact that there are certain things in science that certainly go very quickly and change, but the Earth's still round kind of thing?
No, what it has to do with Mr. McCarty is it's more budget, looking at the textbook budget and our budget as a district. And also it's looking at the state's list of textbooks that they currently have that we can adopt. And it's just a whole bunch of that kind of stuff.
Okay. When that decision is made, if it is particularly budgetary, I think it'd be good if you could present that back to the board so that we know, that this was we'd like to move forward, but it was a budgetary holdback, so that we can have that information to either rearrange as we need to moving forward or put other priorities where we need to. I would appreciate that.
Yeah, hopefully next school board meeting, I'll have Paul talk to you guys about the textbook adoption for science.
Thank you very
All
much.
right, you're welcome.
All righty then. We are moving right along. 3.01 is our consent agenda.
Approve.
Second.
Motioned and seconded for the consent agenda. Is there any discussion?
My only discussion was I was ready to make that motion and I got beat.
Got to be quicker on the ball. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. 4.01 is the superintendent's report. Back to you, Mr. Anderson.
Okay. Let's see. So things to report on. Since our last meeting, I'm just gonna fill you in on a couple things that have occurred. We did have both a county commission update on our capital improvement projects as well as AB 519 panel update on how things are going there. So very similar in fashion to what we told our own internal committee as well as you guys at our last facilities report. So not much there, just letting you know we're out and about in the community and with our local entities, making sure they're aware of what we're doing with our facility funds. Last week we had 5 of, so let's see, of the 5 directors and 5 of the 6 of us joined 4 teams from 4 schools. So altogether, there's about 27 of us, I think, and we were in for a couple of days for the Nevada Future of Learning convening to start the year. Really exciting stuff. So they have it, just so you're aware of kind of the structure, they have it broken down to like at the site level. So that's why there's the school teams, and they're talking about how they can create parameters within their own school and how to take this small team and expand what they're learning to the rest of the staff of that school to direct our instruction to be more student-focused, learner-centered, and competency-based. And so how we can start shifting towards those elements. This kind of goes along with the state portrait of a graduate that has been developed and kind of right in line with our own aspiration to develop our own portrait of a learner, which is one of our actions that we are going to be taking moving forward in conjunction with our strategic plan. So anyway, it was kind of we've had a couple of schools participating in kind of like a very focused project level, but then now it's how do we kind of amplify that impact? And so empowering educators at sites to do it. And then from our end, it is how are we going to work as district leaders along with the site principals at those campuses to have an impact on system level structures and policies to remove roadblocks from sites who are trying to move things in that direction to be more learner centered, because sometimes we accidentally get in our own way with bureaucracy and things like that in policy. So doing a lot of listening and kind of creating the conditions for us to be able to engage in that. It's kind of really good timing with our desire to do our own portrait of a learner, as a lot of those things go hand in hand. So it was a good couple of days spent together. We will have, throughout the course of the rest of this year, we have 2 more convenings in person throughout the year, and then 3 virtual convenings on Fridays that all of these educators will be taking part in. It's an ongoing thing. So it's exciting, and kind of evenly distributed throughout the year, so we're constantly having it in mind. Just starting today, and we'll have them again tomorrow. We'll have all of our, this room looked vastly different about 2 hours ago. We had all, I don't know the number, but all of our administrators, every principal and vice principal, save a few who live far away from here, in outlying communities, who are present in the room, and getting on the same page with anything from, budgetary realities to changes in policy, changes in lots of different directions, transportation, just making sure we're all on the same page. We do this every year, and just, if you want to swing by tomorrow, you're welcome to. You can walk in and say hi to our administrators. We'll be here all day, from 8 to, I think it's 3 tomorrow. So it's good to have them all back. They had a nice busy week last week on their campuses, and now we're here together, rocking and rolling, and it's fast and furious once August hits. But anyway, just wanted you to know we're all collaborating with one another. Couple of important dates that are coming up. Next week on the 14th, every administrator, nurse, school psych, counselor, social worker will be engaged in a threat assessment training. So that's it's good. It's good that we're doing that. Looking forward to learning how to do that. It's not an easy thing to do. There are some people that are more qualified than others, but sometimes we can find ourselves just being like, oh, well, that's something they do, and not really worrying too much about it. And I'm guilty of that sometimes as well. This is, most of the time our administrators, for example, aren't the ones who are doing the threat assessment necessarily. A lot of times that falls to a school psych or to a social worker, but it is important to know the elements of that. And sometimes we have to pinch hit out here because we only have so many people that do certain things, right? Like, we don't necessarily have a nurse that might be there that day, or a social worker that won't be there. That's pretty common. So, or a school psych, because there's only so many of them to go around. So anyway, cross training and understanding the importance of that threat assessment training. So we're all going to be doing that next week, which is good. Excited about I sent this out through district email last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I can't remember. But excited for the event that GBC is holding. They have a guest speaker. Well, they have multiple guest speakers, but the one I sent out as requested to send out was for Dr. John Medina. I was trying to find the printout of it to put in front of my face, but it's like brain science stuff, and he's going to be talking a lot about the kind of a topic that we've been interested in lately, which is the effects of social media and screen time and on kids' brains, and so very informative. He's both an accomplished author as well as a wonderful speaker, and so kind of a good one to have pass through our community, and we're fortunate to have him here. So I'm excited to listen to him next week, and that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's next Thursday. The 15th. And so if you saw that email but didn't check it out, and you can, I can also send it through again. I saw some heads shake. Or I may have, I don't remember who I sent it to. I thought it was to the whole district. I'll send it again. I'll send it again. I know GBC has been advertising it as well, so I'll make myself a note to send it. On the same topic, I guess, we're making strides with both our AI and cell phone policies that we've been working on, and we're in the process of not only having some tangible drafts. So the AI policy draft is pretty ready to go. The cell phone one, getting there, but in the process of putting together committees to discuss those. So looking forward to moving forward on that. And as you all know, I sent you examples. I've received others from other people, and I think at a certain point, you know, you can look at only so many example policies, and you have to decide, okay, what is it that we want to do, right? And so they're good examples for what exists out there, but you know, sometimes you glean good ideas from other people, and you also glean things like, no, I don't like that at all, and helps kind of form where you want to be with it. So we're working on that still. Also, a couple other updates. We've been spending a lot of time recently, and we'll continue to in the coming weeks and months go through individual departments, sites, and budgets to seek specific areas that we can make tangible, you know, cuts or reductions, or places where we might be, you know, overspending, that sort of thing. So we're, with the help of Cassie and her folks down there, we are going through, you know, like I said, one department at a time, one budget at a time, and it's cumbersome, but it's important given the situation we're in. So just want you to know that's happening on a regular basis, and we're making sure to communicate the why of those things as we communicate findings that we have to our administrators, and so we're all aware of the mutually beneficial nature of doing those things. And then another partnership we're excited to start to kind of pursue a little more is in conjunction with our third pillar over there, the family and community engagement. One of the areas that you kind of indicated in my evaluation, and something we just self-admittedly haven't made a lot of progress with yet, is that of providing resources to our early childhood families, so our kids can come to us more kindergarten ready. We thought earlier in the year we were exploring something that we thought was going to bear fruits, and it didn't. And we've found another partnership that we believe will. And so it requires a lot of communication on our end, but we think it's pretty quality. And so I'll you know, at some point, if we enter into an agreement or whatever, you'll see that in our consent agenda. But we're moving forward on trying to find solutions there, and also not only that, but in the same topic or category or pillar, trying to expand our partnership with the United Way of Northern Nevada and the Sierras. They have some additional resources they'd like to expand in Elko County. So ever exploring new options of resources that we can bring to our families and our students. So I think that's probably it for me for an update. Oh, I guess one more thing I'll throw out there is the same day that we have our next board meeting, that is our district convocation day. So we will have all of our staff coming in for a speaker for the staff, also a motivational speaker for students as it pertains to student leadership and building those skills. And so that'll be going on that day. We will send pretty soon. I think we're sending out the official communication about dates, times, et cetera. And so you should get that in your inbox, and you're of course welcome to join us for the speaker that day. There will be 2 different times that the speaker presents to our staff, since we can't fit all our staff in the room at the same time. And then you're also welcome to the one for students. So yeah, I think that's it for me, unless you have any specific questions or anything like that.
Thank you, sir. And it looks like the 24th of July is when the email went out for best-selling author and brain scientist, Dr. John Medina at GBC, as the title, or as the subject line. But yeah, if you could send it out one more time, I think that's a good reminder perhaps for the district. Thank you.
Be happy to.
All righty then. Is there anything for the superintendent? Moving on then to 5.01, items from the board members. Who would like to go first? All righty, don't all speak up at once, because you know I will.
Since Jeff isn't here, I will go ahead and talk about NASB for just a second. We had an executive committee meeting last night and talked about the training that will be taking place on the 6th and the 7th here in Elko County. And we also have that same day, the morning of the 6th, is when we will have our board training workshop with Dr. Thomas Alsbury. And then that evening, there will be a joint board meeting. And Saturday will be the professional development, which will be held out at the 71 Ranch for NASB. So hopefully everybody signed up for that.
Thank you, Teresa. Any additional board comments?
I have a couple. Try not to go through all of them. I think we should look at policy JGE. It really needs to be updated. It's got some really old information in it. And just some information that I don't think probably belongs in there anymore.
Susan, I apologize. That was JGE.
JGE.
Perfect. Thank you.
And then you talked about the budget was mentioned and going through each department and that kind of thing. I really think you need to use the grid worksheet that spells things out. Like I saw what you had put together for Nearpod, which looks really good, but it still doesn't get some of the information like how much are we paying for per student? What is our goal with purchasing it? Is it just we're using it and teachers enjoy it and the kids like it? You can use it with summer school so that we know, however many students we had and how many teachers, how much is that per student? I really think it's a good worksheet to use, so that's why I'm bringing it up again. I really like to see that being used. And then just a couple things that maybe are in the works that I just don't know about. Getting an update on like what was our attendance like this past year with staff and then with students since we switched to a 4-day week. Did it make a difference in our attendance? The results of the school climate staff surveys. Is a strategic plan going to be, do we look at that every year and just say, we're working towards this, we need to revamp this, we need to revise this? I didn't know if anything like that is going to be done. What was the other thing I had? And then these are just a couple things that I don't know how the rest of you feel about them. I think it'd be nice to have a calendar that has as much as possible mapped out, like here's when we do board positions. Like now I'm kind of getting the hang of it, but I still, like I'm old and my brain doesn't always remember things. So I think it'd be nice to kind of have that mapped out for the year and then you can add or take, I mean, it's not set in stone, but at least it gives an idea like, oh, CJ's evaluation comes up this time of year, need to be thinking about that. Like it would just kind of give me an idea of like what to prepare for and what to look out
Can I
for.
hop in on that one, Susan? In the board governance manual that we, kind of started a long time ago, and that was one of the suggestions was to add that,
Okay.
something of that nature to the board
Okay.
governance manual, and that's something we're
Cool.
looking at
Okay.
working on.
Yeah, like
So,
even a
yeah.
shared Google Calendar or something where you can add and take off easily. I don't want it to be too complicated. And the other one was for us, like looking at our board goals, which I know we need the help of either Ray or somebody, but how do we assess our board goals when we don't know what they are? Like, is that coming up? Are we planning on that? And the other one was an organizational chart of who's in charge of each different thing. Like, is Ray in charge of this and this? Candace is in charge of this and this. Sometimes I think that would be helpful to know. So those are just like thoughts roaming around in my head. So thank you for letting me share.
That's good. Thank you. So just if I can just share a few comments on some of those things. So with our strategic plan, we did have I didn't report on it, but we had a meeting. We've actually talked about it a couple times in the last couple weeks about, and that's kind of the intention is what, when it was created would be, after the first year, you do a review of how you're doing at that point. And when we finished the plan, the idea was, okay, well, we got everybody, we got the teachers union input, we got the support staff, the administrators were there, you were there, and then our PDP was there. And then it was like, okay, we've determined what the actions are. And those things are public and displayed on our website. And then from there on out, it's kind of our responsibility to make sure we're doing those things. And so we very recently had a recap of, hey, how are we doing on these things? What haven't we followed up on yet? What are the actions we're taking care of this year? So we've kind of progressively been looking at that during the summer. We didn't calendar it for it to be exactly a year from last year, but it ended up being like 5 days after the year mark or something. So we've been working on it, and it's a topic of conversation for tomorrow in our admin council as well. So yeah, we're continuing on with that. The schedule of board actions, I do think that we can definitely include that in that governance manual. It's also it's one of those, I have a document that I'm about a third of the way done with, and I was kind of putting it together myself for you guys as well. Keeping up with it. It's one of those like, hey, when you got time, just add to that a little bit, as things come up. And so I do need to finish that, but it is in progress at the moment. And the org chart, yeah. So we have like a general organization chart that shows which positions lie in which department, but not necessarily what each person or entity is over. And so that could take some time to develop, but I think we can maybe do like a sub organization, like a set of charts that go with, as like an appendix to the greater chart. So,
Great.
yeah. And then as far as the data update goes, I know Ray is scheduled at an upcoming meeting. I don't know if it's for the next one or one after that. Ray and I have had multiple conversations about, hey, it's time to report on how things went last year. So that is also upcoming. So
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Additional comments from the board? Alrighty, I have a few. I take responsibility for the NASB not getting out to the board for you guys to be able to review. We did get a number of them coming back in. If you are comfortable, you're welcome to sign them as what we have received so that they can be put back. I know that I still have one that's outstanding that I need to do and get back to the board. We do need to have these signed and returned by Friday, August 16th, which means that this is the last opportunity. All of us are in one meeting to be able to do it. So we will need electronic signatures, or if you want to come to the central office and sign in ink, then you are welcome to do that as well. And I will try to have those out to you electronically to review this evening. But if you'd like, in the meantime, they are here. I also owe an apology to the board because at the previous meeting, in direct response to Josh's request on the cell phone, or I think it was a cell phone update, I said that legal had responded back and said that we're working on that. That was not what legal had said. It was a completely different policy that in my head I had linked together. So I apologize on that. But as CJ just said, that is being worked on. The NASB meeting, thank you, Teresa, for bringing that up. If there's anybody that is not able to take those 2 days and meet, if you guys could please let me know individually so that I can make sure that we've got the proper recording and ability to be able to pass that along. You don't need to say it now, but just give me a heads up one-on-one. I would appreciate it. We're about ready to wrap up. So anybody that is watching, or anybody in the room that wants to participate in the National Night Out, at least here in Elko, it'll be until 8 o'clock this evening at the Elko City Park. So a good opportunity to go out and pay some appreciation to our emergency service providers and or get a free burger or dog or something like that. But I'm sure other communities within the county are also doing something similar. I believe that is all I have. So We do not have actually, I kind of jumped into the 5.02. Is there anybody that wants to discuss anything further in 5.02? All righty, then 6.01 is the approval of the accounts payable.
Move to approve the accounts payable.
Second.
All righty, it's been moved and seconded, kind of in a quick manner there by Josh. You wanted to get one in at least today.
I had to. I had to do it.
All righty, any further discussion on the accounts payable? Any disclosures of record?
Well, I don't have to disclose anything today.
Yes.
Hang on, okay. I have to disclose that I have a relative that works for Wells Rural Electric, but I will not be abstaining from voting.
Same disclosure as Brooke, and I will also not be abstaining from voting.
All righty, with those disclosures, any further comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye as well. 7.01 is input from public. Is there any input from the public? Seeing none, we are adjourned and we will see everybody in 2 weeks on the 20th of August. Thank you very much.